So, when we recorded this interview back in February, Liam was in a season of pursuit, bridging curiosity and creativity, learning to trust that each step, no matter how uncertain, was part of a larger design. We talked about patience, purpose, and the courage it takes to follow your own path, less chasing perfection, more chasing feeling. Since then, he's continued to live that message, growing his creative direction, expanding his work across mediums, and proving that the journey really is the destination. Guided by Paulo Coelho's The Alchemist, this conversation explores what it means to listen to the call of your personal legend, to bet on yourself, to create from the heart, and to trust that the universe will meet you halfway. So, let's revisit where it all began. And in the coming days, head to our Instagram for an exclusive post-interview update as to what's going on with Liam today.
Passion doesn't have to be this like fiery feeling. It could also just be like, is this something I want to do? Do I like this food? Do I like the people I'm hanging out with? Like if nobody was around, nobody was looking at me, would I want to do this?
What's been the hardest trade-off?
That's a question I'm wrestling with. Graduated from school in June 2020. I always wanted to move to New York right after school. Graduated, shit obviously didn't work out. This interview series we started, it just came out of the moment because I could have said no to that and I'd be sitting here always wondering. In reality, I'm like, your success is what you're making of it. If you can't be satisfied with what you're doing, you're never really going to recognize your progress.
You create positive moments, specifically positive moments for others, which I found to resonate with me.
The ironic thing is I put so much effort into reaching out to people and getting connections, didn't actually provide any fruit. I wanted it so badly. Do we have a meaningful conversation? Am I listening to you? Am I a person that you feel like you can talk to? And if that's a positive impact, that like giving someone an outlet to be creative, even if they don't pursue it full time, you have a positive experience.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to be speaking with you today, brother. By way of the Pacific Northwest, am I correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Seattle.
And now you're a New Yorker, chasing after the big city dreams while surrounded by big city lights, We'll get to the dreams a little later in the interview, but I've had the pleasure of growing to know you over the last year or so. And you're not only one of the most fun people to be around, but also one of the most effortlessly passionate individuals I know too.
Thank you. That's really
it's
sweet.
a pleasure sitting down with you today, and I'm looking forward to hearing more from you. To tee it off, kind of give everybody a breakdown of how you're doing, what's up, what have you been up to lately, what's going on in the life of Liam Allan?
What has been going on? I mean, I've been here in New York. I didn't make it home for the holidays, which was tough, but I had loved ones here, so was able to do that. But it was a really nice like moment of, not moment. I had like 4 or 5 days of literally reset, wake up, go to the gym, have nothing planned.
Yeah.
Which has been a great reset from like the busy New York City life. Like first time in I don't know how long I've like just had 4 days of me time. But it's been great because it's made me kind of sit back and reframe and shift my perspective, think about what I really want to focus on. So that kind of began with DJing. I've been DJing pretty seriously like a little over a year. So we've been doing sets. I've been recording mixes. We just had a really successful event at Cafe Blerica in Williamsburg. So it's been great. Kind of like, having that time to focus has been really nice on figuring out what I want to do in terms of my next steps with DJing. What's my sound? What kind of events do I want to be doing? What am I getting paid for? How much am I getting paid? So that's been good. I'm working at Complex right now, executive assistant. So just holding it down.
Amazing.
Basically just like I'm that middleman between leadership and the rest of the department. So it's a tough role, a lot of proactivity, but it's been good. I mean, Complex is a good brand and it's been great. I'm also launching the official first season of Spotlight, which is an interview series that I do with some of my creative partners. So Sam Snowden, who's my roommate, fortunately he's had this brand Create More Studios for a couple of years at Create More Studios. Check it out. But him and Christian, I'm sure Christian, Bobby is the reason we know each other. We have a couple really, really cool guests lined up for this year. Everybody from multidisciplinary artists to filmmakers and fashion people. It's a series really focusing on highlighting and humanizing creatives, like mostly the people that are in the moment, trying to figure their life out and their passion out. Like the Bobbys and the Liams, and like I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm still trying something. Because I think a lot of times the advice you hear is from people who have, quote unquote, made it or have seen success or have overcame some adversity. We're like, what about the people who are facing adversity right now?
Exactly.
And really, really trying to figure that out. Because I think it sometimes resonates a bit more when you're like, oh, you're just like me. Like, I'm not alone in experiencing this. So we'll be launching the first real season in May with an event following. But other than that, man, just staying healthy, avoiding gluten, trying to keep my body right. Just enjoying life. Trying to find a balance of chasing my dreams, but also enjoying the moment.
I love that. And you shared a lot there, and I think we'll get a little bit more into it, with the questioning following. But that portion that you hit on about kind of having that time to reset. I've found that maturing is like being okay with not having anything planned, and realizing that time is so valuable in like reconfiguring your priorities, your values, like you mentioned, and where you ultimately want to go. So you provided a blog post, and I'll use a bit of that to guide some of the questions that we have today, and then we got a little something at the end of the interview too. But just to set the tone for this interview, if you could pick 3 words, and only 3 words, to describe your current journey in life, what would they be and why?
I mean, passion, 100%. Fortunately or unfortunately, it's hard to motivate me to do things that I don't want to do.
Yeah.
So I've been lucky enough to find ways that I'm doing things I want to do. But also, I think passion sometimes becomes a commodity, right? You're like, only do things you're passionate about, only get paid things you're passionate about. But I'm like, I feel like I think it's just by the way I was raised and by so many other factors apart from myself, but I feel like everything I do, I need to be passionate about, and not like this overarching, like, I need to cook the best food. It's like, do I like this food? Do I like the people I'm hanging out with? Like, is this the type of exercise routine I want to do? Are these the habits that I'm really enjoying? Passion doesn't have to be this like fiery feeling. It could also just be like, is this something I want to do? Like, if nobody was around, nobody was looking at me, would I want to do this? And it's not always like I'm not always doing it, but I think that's an underlying factor for a lot of those things. And I think the next word I would say is creativity. My family was very creative, and I was fortunate to find very creative friends and had some amazing, roommates throughout the years that are very creative people. And I think that's also helped me just ingrain creativity into my life. And I've always kind of, had something that I'm creatively working on, even if it's outside of work or outside of school or stuff like that. I feel like there's always something I'm like working on. There's always like, at a point in time, there's always something I'm obsessed over and like really want to get good at and, tap my creativity for. But I think what I've been trying to learn, and a theme, is patience is the next one.
I love that.
So hard to get caught up in like, I gotta make it right now.
Yeah. I
gotta do this, or you're always comparing yourself to other people, and like everybody has a different pace, and it's not like I'm always patient. I feel like I'm always kind of trying to do something, but that like what you were saying, it's so important to have those moments to like sit back. And I think there's patience and boredom too. And I think, I always try to remain as like childlike as possible, keep that like, adolescent
I love that.
naivete.
Yeah.
And so having patience, right? Like, when you were a kid, you were so bored. I was like, Mom, like, can I watch TV? She's like, no, come up with something. But that's when like my imagination kind of ran with it.
Yeah.
And I found like your imagination kind of goes away. And I don't think it's because you're growing up, but it's because your attention just gets pulled in so many different ways. And so having the patience to be like, you know what? I have 10 minutes between work. Like I just got ready for work. I already ate. I did everything. I have 10 minutes. Like, what if I just sit here in silence and just be patient and get bored? Let my brain wander. Like, let me think about whatever. But yeah, patience in my career, patience in friendships, in control, like even in patience in working out. Like I'll miss a week and I'm like, I need to get back to where I was, or, I just started climbing again. And I used to climb a lot growing up. And I'm like, I wanted to push myself and start climbing. And I'm like, dude, if I'm not patient with this, I'm gonna tear my tendons. So
Exactly.
yeah, I'd say, you know, passion, creativity, and patience.
Passion,
I think
creativity,
is,
and
what
patience.
I'm trying to keep. Yeah.
Trust the process, as Joel Embiid would say.
Didn't
All
know
right,
we'd be quoting Joel Embiid in this, but I'm down.
I'm telling you. All right, so enough of the softball questions. You ready to get into it, my boy?
Man. Sheesh.
You've mentioned in your blog post how curiosity, experience, and creativity, you know, you touched on creativity a bunch.
Those are my 3 words?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Curiosity,
That makes sense.
experience, and creativity is what I pulled from your blog post, but I like passion and patience as well. But you mentioned those 3 words, curiosity, experience, and creativity specifically. So was there a specific moment or experience that first sparked that realization for you that all 3 of those facets kind of feed into one another, as well as your, you know, passion and patience as well?
I wouldn't say this is a moment, but I really do think COVID was a transformative time in terms of experience for me. It came from me starting to meditate, and I was living with some jazz musicians who are also brilliant people and very into philosophy.
Okay.
And experience, I feel like, became a very, very integral focus for me. I found it to be like the truth, right? Your experience is the only truth. Every time you try to articulate your experience or like try to break down what was this experience like, and you start putting your thought to it, it kind of takes some of the truth away. So like experience in the truest form, like the feeling of the breeze on your skin, that feeling is the truest form of itself. And the second, like if I try to explain to you what the breeze feels like on my skin, you're like, okay, but you'll only understand in the way that you can, and I'll only explain it in the way that I can.
Yeah.
So experience, I think that's where the foundation came from, and understanding what is my experience in every moment is like, how am I experiencing this? Not how am I attaching myself to the thought of this experience. It's like, how am I experiencing it? Like, doesn't matter what people think, doesn't matter where you think this experience is going to lead you. It's just like, what are you feeling right now? And I think that led to, you know, making sure my experiences were always something I was aligned with.
Exactly.
You know, like not like, oh man, it's like this DJ set going to get me this thing. It's like, did I enjoy this thing? Did I experience it in a way that I'm aligned to? And I think that's where curiosity kind of came into it. COVID was definitely a time of sitting back a little bit. Like I graduated from school in June 2020, and I always wanted to move to New York right after school. That was always the plan. Graduated, shit obviously didn't work out, and I was like, New York was like the worst place to go in the States. So I was at home for a while, but I was so stubborn, again, back to the passion thing. Like, you know, my friends and family were like, oh, you know, like, what if you just get a job here and then figure it out? And I was like, no, I'm going to work in, you know, music entertainment. I'm going to go to New York. And so in the interim, I did TaskRabbit, which turned out to be a great experience, because you don't really need a lot of critical thinking, and you don't need to use your brain a lot for a TaskRabbit. You're just moving shit.
Yeah.
So my body's moving, but my brain is thinking, and that's where my curiosity came about, because I had like 8 hours a day of podcasts and music or no music, and so like that curiosity just came about. It felt really good, you know. And again, I think that kind of goes back to the boredom thing of just letting your mind wander, and like, how am I experiencing? Okay, this experience of TaskRabbit's not bad, but is this experience something I want to keep doing?
Yeah.
And so the curiosity and like being curious with your experiences, like what else can I experience, I guess came to kind of married a bit during COVID. So I think COVID was, obviously a tough time for a lot of people, and I was so fortunate to like have a good situation at home, and I had friends nearby that were in my pod, and like I had a creative outlet and the resources to pursue those things. So, you know, I don't want it to sound like, I don't know, entitlement or whatever, but it was really a moment of like, take a step back, because I think if that didn't happen, I would have graduated and I would have gone right to the city. I don't know if I would have had that again, I meditated a lot, like every day during COVID, because I had the time to, and it was such a transformative experience, because I had so much curiosity and passion and creativity like building up, and once I was able to kind of get out of COVID and move to New York, it like that momentum just never really stopped.
That's beautiful. And like in conjunction, I guess, like you've traveled, you know, you've DJed, you've shot mini documentaries. worked with major brands. You're working at a major brand right now, you know, with so many creative outlets. How do you know when you're on that right path? You know, what signal tells you, yes, you know, this is where I'm supposed to be?
That's a great question. I think that's one I've honestly been asking myself a lot recently. Because, you know, like I'll say like I'm only passion driven. I'm only doing like things I don't want to do. But as you are aware, as most people are aware, like what you should do isn't always what you want to do, right? Like I don't always want to come home and DJ and practice, but like that is something you have to do. And it's like, it is a craft. So that curiosity comes in a bit. But I think that's a question I'm wrestling with. I think honestly, just doing it, just trying it, you'll know. This interview series we started, it just came out of the moment.
Yeah.
And if I didn't say yes to interview, like, you know, we were in Tokyo and we interviewed this creative collective, shot a great documentary. And if I didn't say yes and have, you know, the naivete to say, fuck it, I'll interview people, I'll get in front of the camera, then I wouldn't have known. But doing it and experiencing it, again, to tie it back, is the only way I feel like you'll ever know. Because I could have said no to that, and I'd be sitting here always wondering, man, would it have worked out? Would I want to continue to interview? Do I want to shoot documentaries and tell stories? It's honestly really hard to know, but I think the only way you will know is if you actually do it and say yes to these things. Same thing with DJing. I think recently there's been a lot of moments of like, this is make or break. You either say yes, you know, is it a last minute booking I wasn't ready for? Is it my friend asking me to interview and make a documentary the next day? It's like, are you going to say yes to this and pursue this, or are you going to sit back and hesitate? So I don't think you'll always know, but I think the only way you will is if you do it.
Amen.
But again, yeah, it's a question honestly, it's a great question that I've really been trying to like figure out. I think that kind of goes back to experience too.
Yeah.
I think I'll probably say meditation about 50 times today, but it really does go back to that, because you meditate, you kind of find this place where you're not pulled and distracted or attached to all these thoughts you're having. And when you're kind of in that center, that there's that truth of experience, and that's where you're supposed to be. And if I'm interviewing and I kind of feel something similar to where I'm at when I'm fully at my center, then I know that's the right way. Or DJing, because there's things, you know, right? I mean, easiest example is like a night out, right? Did I drink a little bit too much? You know if you needed to or not, right? Or like, did I need to buy dinner? I have food, like, you know, those are simple things, but those expand into bigger moments. Like, is this really what I want to do or not?
Exactly.
Like, you know, but again, you won't really know until you put yourself out there and try it.
And I think it's okay to wrestle with that question, you know. I think it's a question I almost ask kind of to help me inform my next steps, you know. Because like, I think everybody understands the fact that we don't know what the fuck is going on for, you know, half of what we're experiencing. But as long as we do, you know, make that action, eventually things will become more clear, and you'll establish more clarity in your practice and whatever you're doing forward. So I really appreciate that answer.
You just articulated that perfectly.
I'm glad. We speak the same language, man. We speak the same language.
Yes, sir.
Also, shout out Crew Palace. I did watch that documentary.
Shout out Crew Palace. Yes.
That was awesome. That was awesome.
Shout out Crew Palace. That was a good moment.
It was great. And I love the way you guys captured that. Talked about redefining success in your blog post a little bit, not by external metrics, you know, but by how the experience feels. You spoke about the fact that you can't necessarily describe how the wind feels on your skin, but I probably could pick up what you're putting down, honestly. To go on a mini tangent, you know, before last year, I was not a festival goer whatsoever, and you can probably attest to this. And I think I was more so worried about the external factors, you know, making sure the location was perfect, the artists, the people I went with were all, you know, perfect, rather than the feeling that I actually wanted to draw from the experience. And this past year, we went to a festival together, of course. Best time I've had in a long time. Was it hot? Was it hot as hell day zero? Yes. Did I have
external?
Exactly. Did I have no clue who half the artists were that I was seeing? No. But the experience and more so the feeling I left with was what made it what it was, you know? So what was the turning point for you that led you to the idea that we should be focusing on the experience and the feelings that we draw from them rather than the externalities? I know you touched on COVID a little bit, but were there any other turning points, significant moments that we don't necessarily pay too much attention to that lead up to the aggregation of all of that, I guess?
I really think that started with me taking DJing more seriously. I had done it like a little bit in college, like maybe a handful of parties.
Yeah.
And then there was, again, like what I was saying, a critical moment where my friend Christian was like, yo, I have a slot for you in Amsterdam. And I had never really DJ'd before. I had like done homies parties and stuff. And so like taking that moment out of the blue, jumping at it. But DJing, I feel like, has become a very, I guess, like a vain pursuit. There's a lot about image. It's a lot about like, oh, this looks cool. You can make your set look so cool. You can make this party look lit. And then I kind of, get in there and like, you get behind the curtain, you're like, oh, like these people are good DJs, but what they're posting about looks way more lit. And I would be so nervous to be like posting about something that wasn't the actual experience. Like, make a thing like, oh, this is a super lit, and it like wasn't super lit, or like I'm doing this and I really wasn't. And so I was like wrestling with it for a long time, and I was just comparing myself to everybody. Like there was a couple times where I would like get done with the set and like I thought I did well, but I'm like, yeah, I'd literally pull up Instagram and it's like, yo, homie just did a 400 person party, or like they just did this legendary venue. They're at this rooftop, and I'm like, I just did this thing that I should be proud of, but it's so hard to be proud of myself when I'm always like directly after seeing someone doing something better.
Yeah.
And I thought I was unhappy with it for a little bit, and I was like, why can't you be proud of yourself when you're doing these things? And I'm like, because everything outside of me is telling me I could do better. And I should be better. But in reality, I'm like, your success is what you're making of it. And I'm like, is success... Actually, there was a very distinct moment. I got hired to do somebody's birthday party, and it was a really cool spot, like rooftop in Queens. And there was probably like 60 people there, right? And I was DJing. I had a great time. People kept coming up and saying it was a lot of fun. And it wasn't like a turnt party at the beginning. And people were just kind of, you could see they're rocking a little bit, but they were still talking, and I was like playing background music, just providing some good vibes. And then the last like hour, there was probably 40 people left at this party, and something just kind of clicked, and the music started hitting, and everybody was dancing and jumping up and down, and like it was just like the most palpable energy. I get done and I was like so amped. I was stoked. There was no part of me that was like, I could have done this better, this better. Yeah. And I was like, you know what, man? This was like a private event. There were 40 people there. This is like the definition of like the smallest party you could do. And I had never been more proud of myself. I had never had so much fun. I would never been so excited to provide people with such a good experience. And I was like, you know what, fuck this, like yada yada, like capacity, selling out this shit. Like, it's really just the experience, right? We had a good experience. My job as a DJ to make sure other people have a good experience. So if I do that, then I'm successful with it. And I think that's translated to a lot of other things as well. Like, it's easy to look at the numbers. It's easy to think that you could do something better, or be thinking about who's watching, and it never leads to satisfaction. And like, if you can't be satisfied with what you're doing, you're never really going to recognize your progress, because you're always going to be looking at what you haven't done yet. So, that moment was really beautiful. But DJing, I think, in the irony of DJing being such an outward facing art form, kind of, it was like make or break. It's like, either I'm going to be happy with what I'm doing, or I'm just always going to be looking at what I could be doing differently and how I could be better and bigger or whatever. And I'm happy I took the former for that, because it's had a big effect on how I've measured success and how I'm finding satisfaction in my creativity.
That was said perfectly. And my next question is going to be about comparison and how you avoid falling into that trap. And I think you answered both questions perfectly. There's a saying that every blessing has a cost, and you kind of managed to navigate the blessings that you've been provided. But what's been the hardest trade-off you've had to make in your pursuits? Identifying, where you are blessed, where you are, gifted, where your talents do lie. What has been the factors that you've identified as like, yeah, this is something that I'm not necessarily going to be able to, commit to, or this is something I can't necessarily dedicate time to, or these are feelings that I can't have in these moments? What have been those trade-offs?
I think as work gets harder and you grow up and life gets harder and you lose family members and you gain and lose friends, like you want more time. And sometimes I think that time is spent like watching movies or having free time or kicking it with your friends, and that's had to be a sacrifice a lot. And I'm not saying like I don't think I ever want to get to a point where I'm siloing myself and like losing friends because I'm focusing on other things, but it's also like what kind of friends are you hanging out with? Like I want to feel inspired by the people I'm with, and that's not necessarily just them being like putting me on a good music or them doing something super dope. Like I want to come away from like a coffee with a homie and like oh dude, that was a great conversation. Sacrificing the people you're around I think is big, you know, like do these people really serve you? Are the things you're doing really serving you? But if I'm being completely honest, not a lot of things have really felt like a sacrifice. I think money is one thing for sure. Like, like investing in your craft too. Like, you know, like how much is a studio session? How much is the DJ deck? How much is the equipment? Where are your subscriptions at? Right? Like, you got to sacrifice money, but you got to make sure you're spending money in the right places. You know, I think it's for me specifically. You know, it's definitely like the family aspect of things. My whole family's out west. You know, I wasn't able to go home for Christmas because I couldn't afford it. I'm able to see them a couple times a year, but you know, like we're growing up, our parents are growing up, siblings are growing up, so you know that's a big sacrifice. And it's something I don't think I would be willing to do if one they were so supportive. I'm very fortunate they're so supportive, but also something I'm loving doing. Like I could not imagine working out here. I mean, my job isn't always great. I don't always love it, but like I can't imagine working out here being miserable, doing nothing, and at the same time living 6-hour flight, 3-hour time zone from my family and missing time with them. You know, so there's all these sacrifices, but it's like, what are you sacrificing it for? You know, it's like a lot of like, what are your inputs serving you? What are your friendships serving you? You know, I've definitely had to like step away from friendships, not necessarily because it was a bad friendship or toxic or they were bad person. It's like, it's not really serving, you know, and like your time is so valuable. And I go back to the time thing. Like time is literally everything. You know, you don't really get a lot of it, especially with work and all this stuff, and the people you spend your time with are some of the most, I think, you know, they say you are who you spend your time with, like law of averages, right? So it's hard sacrificing friendships and sometimes not like realizing you're having to sacrifice this friendship, but to be honest, it doesn't always feel like a sacrifice at the end because you realize what it's serving. It's been a little hard, but I guess it's in the end when you're kind of doing things that are serving you, then it, you know, it doesn't seem like it's such a hard trade-off.
Yeah, I think that's part of the natural maturation of life, just understanding that people are, you know, here for a reason, a season, or a purpose. And, you know, identifying that, you know, putting it into buckets and then realizing these are the folks I'm moving forward with. These are the people that I, you know, had for a season that taught me a lot, but I'm probably not going to see ever again. I think there's this beautiful relationship between like risk and reward. And obviously the universe and, you know, I'm a man of faith, so God playing into that as well. You've spoken about completing work, getting those game time reps. I know for a fact that there's a lot of risk that comes with that. But you also mentioned that, you know, the universe tends to open up opportunities when you create positive moments, specifically positive moments for others, which I found to resonate with me extremely. So have there been any unexpected doors that were a result of you taking a risk that opened for you simply because you showed up and did the work? You mentioned Amsterdam a little bit of Tokyo a little bit too. But beyond that, how is that kind of manifested for you?
I mean, I think the most obvious one is just moving here. I was like, you know, I had that time in Seattle, you know, I had a lot of podcast hours and it was just bubbling up and the world kind of opened up June 2021. And at the same time, I like reconnected with a college buddy, Colby. And he was a big factor because I was like, I'm moving to New York. I didn't have a job. I saved up money. I was living at home, you know. Again, I was very fortunate to make some money, not pay rent. But I had enough money to pay like 2 months of rent. And I was like,
wow,
I'm going to New York. I'm moving out here. Luckily, the rent prices were lower because it was like COVID.
Okay.
But, you know, you're still paying rent. So I was like, fuck it, I'm moving to New York. I'm going out there and I'm going to make something happen. So we moved out here, and Colby didn't have a job either. So that was also great, having someone who's grinding with you. But every single day we'd wake up, go to a coffee shop for like 6 hours, and I would just blast out emails, LinkedIn requests, yada yada. But ironically, the way I got, you know, my start in my career here was, I'll try to tell this in some, but like my dad works in the tunneling industry, like very far off from where I work.
Okay.
And he worked with this woman named Liz. Liz's boyfriend used to work at Xbox, and he used to work in New York.
Oh my God.
And he knew a guy who used to work with him. So Liz was like, "Oh, my you know, boyfriend used to live in New York like years ago. Send me your resume." So I sent her my resume, which was like one internship at a label, and get her my resume. 3 months later, I moved to New York. 3 weeks later in New York, I get a call from this guy. He's like, "Yo, this is Rob from Warner Records. You know, I got your resume from," I forget Liz's boyfriend's name, from, you know, this guy. We want to talk to you about a potential temporary opening. He's like, "Are you New York or LA based?" And I was like, "I'm in New York." He's like, "Oh, great, cool." I was like, boom. That's the payoff right there. Moving out here without a job.
Exactly.
Would not be able to get this role if I'm not in New York. But yeah, the ironic thing is I put so much effort into reaching out to people and getting connections. The direct effort I was doing out here didn't actually provide any fruit. It was, I think, the energy I was putting out here. I wanted it so badly, and I do think the universe will put it back to you. It wasn't necessarily giving people positive experience, but there's something, you know, in New York is very palpable, but I found that the energy you put into it is what it gives back to you. So I was putting that energy out there. I was like, I was convinced. I knew something was going to happen, and it happened, but in a way that I did not see coming.
Yeah.
But that hustle and that concerted effort, you know, showed up in the role, and then the role worked out pretty well. It was a temporary role, and then when I was applying for Complex, I had some good recommendations. So yeah, I mean, I think again, it's this energy, this universal thread that's always weaving you into whatever plans it has. But as long as you're like, I'm going to do this, I'm putting effort in, putting in my reps, you know what I'm saying? Like, am I practicing? Am I reaching out to people? Do I know what I want? Do I know where I want to go? You know, just put the energy out there and get out there and just try to do something. But
Amen.
That effort doesn't always turn out in the way that you think it is. It might manifest itself in some other, you know, situation, but it won't happen unless your energy's there.
Exactly. What's the bigger vision for your work?
Bigger
Whether
vision.
that be DJing, you know, you mentioned the Spotlight series already, a little bit of creative strategy. I know you do a lot of work with Create More Studios. How do you see the next 2 to 3 years lining up for you, and where do you want to take those steps?
I think next 2 to 3 years, you know, with this first launch of the Spotlight series, I mean, I really think we have something special. You know, fortunately, I love talking to people, and I think that kind of manifests itself in these interviews. But Sam is such a genius. He's so good at what he does. Christian's such a great creative partner, such a good business mind. We have all the right things to kind of build a foundation and have a really successful business. So, you know, we're not doing it for money, but I do see like us getting sponsors the next couple of years, working with really cool brands to tell stories, getting hired by studios to make these documentaries a little bit more built out. And you know, I see that happening in the next year, let alone the next 2. I think DJing, it's been a really cool, sometimes tough, sometimes super fun journey of like, I just got hired a lot for things this year, and a lot of stuff I got hired for, you know, you're getting paid to make sure those people have a good time.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily playing the music I want to play. So I think this next year is really going to be focusing like, what's my sound, and where does that show up? I want to do a lot more like radio series or like put my mixes out. You know, I'm going to be shooting some mixes at Sam's studio, Create More Studios. So really kind of getting in terms of DJing, getting my my personal brand and my sound out there, and along with promoting and the video stuff I have to do. And I think that'll turn into, you know, hopefully some residencies. We've had some successful shows. I would love to do like a Superior Ingredients or an Elsewhere. DJing is so much about community, and I'm already kind of seeing that community start to build. So, you know, in the next 2 years, I think it'd be really cool to be considered, I guess, in this, not in the scene, because I think there's so many different scenes, but you know, if I'm having a show, then I know I can hit up Yada Yada and they're gonna come over and kill it, and same they'll hit me up for it. But I think I do have a lot of work until then, a lot of sounds to figure out and a lot of craft to get in, a lot of gigs to do and game time reps.
Yeah.
So it's not always about like the validation, but there's certain places I do really want to play, and there are certain sounds I want to get into, and have a more robust library and do longer sets, not just an hour. Like, what's a 4-hour set? What's a 6-hour set? And really start to make some good money on the side with that. And then with work, I think just keep grinding.
Yeah.
I'm trying not to take as much weight from the fulfillment of work, and more like, what am I getting out of it? What skills am I learning? How's my network growing? And I just want to keep taking advantage of that, and building a healthy relationship between my professional career, my personal endeavors, and creativity. Putting my energy and emotions in the right places with all that.
Yeah. I think DJing is a special craft. I think it's a little bit more than just your regular music production or the release of like an album or such. There's a certain quick-wittedness that's required when you're a DJ, but also like a cultural grasp. You have to understand what people are feeling and what they want from you. I know we talked at Coachella actually a little bit about Afro piano and its rise a little bit. Afro piano is huge here in Arizona, and that's like as of the last year. As of the last year, one of my friends, Malik, actually started it with one of his with his group of friends. It's gained so much traction. They've had Sugar Sean O'Malley at one of their events from this past Halloween, but I think I'm telling you, like it's the craziest thing. He came dressed as the Riddler. Like it was absolutely insane.
That's hard though. Hard.
It was a crazy outfit. It was a crazy outfit. But seeing Sugar Sean O'Malley at Afro piano like that was the last thing on my checklist. I think Afro piano, especially in Arizona. And Arizona is not a very black dominant state, but I think it's gained so much traction because of how much people have been able to resonate with it. In a space, in the DJing space in general, I think Afro piano is still very like new. It's in its infancy. But I think especially with black music artists changing their sound, black people looking for a greater outlet beyond, what we find on Apple Music and Spotify, but like that actual experience. I think Afro piano has kind of taken a little bit of that, whether that be here in Arizona or elsewhere. And I think DJing in general, captures the emotion of music and the impact of music perfectly. So if there's anybody in the friend group or the people that I know that I think can harness that as well as it needs to be, you're one of those people, Liam. You're that person.
That is really sweet.
I'm telling you. And when you
Thank you so
on
much.
the impact portion, when you think about the kind of impact you want to leave, whether it be in DJing, or your professional space or in your creative work, whether it be your audience, your peers, or even just with yourself, what does that impact look like ultimately?
Honestly, I think I said it before, but just leaving people with positive experiences.
Yeah.
I've actually thought about this a good amount recently, but there's been a lot of, not necessarily mentors, but like people who are like 1, 2, 3 years older than me that have left a really big impact on me, in terms of how am I treating others? Am I pursuing my passions? Am I enjoyable to be around? Is it a good time, hanging out with people? I think like positive experiences, again, you said it before, is so important. And I think positive experience, when I was kind of in my, I think, college era, positive experience was like kind of like not necessarily pandering, but like wanting to be liked by everybody.
Yeah.
But I think as I've matured a little bit, it's positive experiences in like, do we have a meaningful conversation? Am I listening to you? Am I a person that you feel like you can talk to? Am I playing good music for you? Did I give you a good recommendation for a food spot, right? Like, I think that legacy is truly that. And, that's why I want people to do the things that they're passionate about as well, right? Like I started DJing and I saw other people were interested. I was like, come on, dude, like let's do it, you know? And if that's a positive impact, that like giving someone an outlet to be creative, even if they don't pursue it full time, like I'm down for that. Like I want people to be involved. I want people to participate. Like I'm very, very conscious about people being included, and I think when you feel included, you have a positive experience. And so, yeah, I just want people to like feel like feel like I left them in a little bit better place than before, I guess.
Amen.
Yeah, I think that's a really big one.
Awesome. And you've learned so much through your experience, trial and reflection, your meditation.
That's it.
What's one lesson you wish more people our age, your age, understood earlier?
Let's get a little deep here, but you are not your thoughts is a big one, right? Like it's so easy to attach yourself to what you're thinking about. Those thoughts are so temporary, and your perception of your reality is so temporary, and it's always changing. And like, you are not your thoughts was such a transformative moment. I guess inside, if I'm going to leave people with something, it's like meditate. Like, cannot emphasize how life-changing that is. And meditation is itself many things. It's prayer, it's transcendental meditation, it's guided meditation, it's making music, it's working out, whatever. But you are not your thoughts. Like, you want to define yourself, and you want to define your friends, and you always want to think the idea of yourself is something, but don't listen to that. Like, just focus on your experience. Like, are you being true to yourself? Are you being a good person? That's what really matters, I feel like. And don't get caught up in thinking you're this, or thinking you need this. Again, like, I think everything we've talked about today is just like, don't compare yourself. Don't think you should be over here, and you're identifying with what you think you should be, and your mind will wander. But just don't. You are not what you are thinking. You are not who you think you are, and just be in the moment and just focus on experiencing things as presently as you can. I think this is so big, and meditation is 100% the way I'm not there. I'm always identifying myself.
You're not a yogi. Yeah, I got you.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not saved. I have not reached nirvana at all. But even just trying to focus on not attaching yourself to your thoughts is a step, and it's a constant journey. But 100% that. Meditate, and don't attach yourself to your thoughts.
Well said. All right, last question. You only get one sentence, though. You only get one sentence. If you had to sum up your journey up to this point, and then maybe afterwards too, which you're looking forward to next, in one sentence, if you have to sum it all up in one sentence, what would that sentence be?
Summarize my journey up until this point, my whole life.
And you can add a little bit of flavor into there too, if you want to touch on where you hope to go next.
Keep working on yourself.
Yeah,
I would definitely say, I think that might be it. Just keep working on yourself.
Amen. I love that. I think that sums up all of what you discussed here today, as well as what you hope to be doing in the future. And I think that's good advice for myself too, because I actually really like your mention of you are not your own thoughts. I think that was what I'm going to take from this interview most. Beyond everything that you said, all of it was amazing, but you are not your own thoughts. I think we get trapped in that hamster wheel of, thinking about what the next day is going to be, the anxieties that arise, all of our own idea that we're all our most harsh critics, the idea that, we're not going to put out what we need to do, or what we need to put out, the standard that we wish it to be, or, the idea that it's not going to be perceived in the manner that we want it to be perceived. Like, I think understanding the fact that, we are blessed with certain opportunities, certain, abilities, and that, maximizing that is ultimately what makes us us, rather than what's going on up here, is the most important part about being, human, being us, living this life. I appreciate your insights. I appreciate your wisdom, because this taught me a lot. I know it's going to resonate with a lot of people. And it's an honor for this to be our first interview of the Scrapbook Series Season 2.
Oh,
so
damn.
There you go. Your inaugural.
Thank you so much.
Of course,
Thank you so much for reaching out and allowing me to do this. And be a part of this.
Yeah.
You know, I think, like I said, like the people you keep around are so important. I'm very grateful to have met you, and I've learned a lot. Like, I think when you're asked these questions that you haven't asked yourself before, it makes you realize things. And there's a couple things I came out of this conversation with being like, damn, Bobby, you summed it up, right? There's a couple moments I was like, I just talked for 5 minutes and you just repeated that back in 30 seconds. And like, that is what I was looking for, you know?
Amen.
So yeah, dude, I really appreciate this conversation. This has been awesome.
Of course.
Thank you so much.
Of course. Liam, thank you for
Appreciate you,
joining citiZen for the second season
Yes, sir.
of the Scrapbook Series. This year, we're introducing a new concept called the Book Club. And what makes this season so special is our focus on weaving print media with multimedia, connecting the timeless wisdom of literature to the real-world challenges of today and the aspirations of us young folks. So in prepping for this interview, I actually revisited one of my favorite books, The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho.
Banger.
Now for background, for those who don't know, The Alchemist is all about one thing, finding who you are. It follows Santiago, a shepherd, you know, who ditches his ordinary life to follow a dream of treasure in Egypt. And along the way, he meets mentors, faces setbacks, learns the real treasure isn't gold, you know, it's discovering who you are. You know, the message to realize one's destiny is a person's only obligation in this life, you know. The universe will conspire to help you only if you're bold enough to take the first step. You know, after reading your blog post and from who I know you to be, Liam, not only did I find it appropriate to use The Alchemist to guide this interview, but I found it necessary. So, Liam, you're well on your way to greatness. I've got the copy here, my friend, and I'm honored that I can be a very small part of that. And for you joining me today, I'm actually going to be gifting you this copy of The Alchemist here. This is my copy. So
Dude,
thank
yes.
you tons,
I lost
brother.
mine.
There you go. I got you. That's perfect.
I lost it like years ago. Oh, dude, that's so sweet.
No, of course, bro. Of course.
That's insane, bro. I was reading a quote from it. Wait, I can't show you. My background is a quote from The Alchemist on my phone.
Oh my God.
And I
I'm
made that
telling
my
you,
background, like,
this is perfect.
I made
This
it
is perfect.
2 weeks ago, and I was like, fuck, I don't have that book anymore. I want to read it again.
Yes.
This is the universe.
I'm telling you, it's one of my favorite books. I probably revisit it every like 1 to 2 years, but like I had to for this interview. And I think that this book, what Paulo Coelho, you know, communicates in this book, as well as the journey of Santiago, perfectly sums up like what humans are meant to be, what our life journey and our destinies are supposed to be. And I think it sums up a lot of what you shared in your journey as well as your blog post. So I think it's only right that I give you this. I'll, you know, add a little note in here. I'll probably emboss it too. But this is coming to you, sir. So thank you tons, brother.
Thank you so much.
This was super informative.
Appreciate you, man.
I'm wishing nothing but the best for you moving forward. And any last words before we close this off?
Pick your friends wisely, because then we have conversations like this, man. Appreciate you a lot, bro.
Of course,
this
bro.
has been a great experience. I'll see you in April.
Amen.
Yes, sir.
Amazing. Thank you
All right,
again,
bro.
Liam.
Thank you so much again, Bobby.
Of course,
Appreciate it,
bro. Of
Enjoy
course,
the rest
bro.
of the day.
Of course. This was citiZen.
Peace.
Thank you.